Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Talent Thursday. I'm Jody Schwan. I'm the owner of Sioux Falls Stout Business. Happy to be helping host this series of discussions in partnership with the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. We have really had a nice opportunity to get to know some of our up-and-coming talent here in the Sioux Falls area, and I'm especially excited for our guest today, a very interesting career path and an equally interesting, I think, role right now. I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to David Dockstad. He is the president of ISG. David, thanks so much for joining us on Talent Thursday.
Yeah, thank you, Jody. Really excited to join and to talk a little bit about the company and my background.
I'm losing you, Dave. Can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yep.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and then pick it up for us. Give us a little bit of your backstory. Tell us how you got where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally grew up in Galva, Iowa, Northwest Iowa, small town. Grew up on a farm, went to Iowa State University for civil engineering. Got my four-year degree at Iowa State, so I'm a Cyclone, and started in our Algona office, but did a couple of internships in California and in Chicago, Illinois. Thought for sure that I wanted to be a West Coast kid. Learned quickly that I did not. I was Midwest at heart, and it was my fit. So started in our Algona office, worked there for a couple of years in the civil engineering industry, but public works specifically is what I was working with. And actually at that point in time, Chad Serpernot, our CEO, asked me to move to our Storm Lake office and head up the public works department there. And I did, transitioned over to Storm Lake. That was conveniently 2 weeks after I had gotten engaged to my wife, and I bamboozled her into moving. And went to our Storm Lake office, ran our public works department there, eventually took that office over a couple of years later and ran that office for 5 years, and ran our Algona office actually for the last year. And then in February of 2018, moved to Sioux Falls, got my wife to move again, and moved to Sioux Falls and opened the office, ISG's office there with two others. So there's three of us on day one, and today we're about 16. We should run out of room in our office, which is a good problem, in the next year and a half. So I'm probably going to need to look for new digs, but Sioux Falls has been absolutely great. My wife and I have been really excited about the move and have absolutely loved it, and just love the people and the ability for folks to just absolutely connect you into that community fairly rapidly. So yeah, really enjoying having the office there. Actually joining today from our Mankato headquarters. Happen to have a couple other meetings that I needed to be up here for. So hopefully the technology is working in our Mankato office well.
Well, I love your point about connecting to the community. I think that is so true. No matter where you come from or what industry you happen to be in. I'm going to bring in Denise Gazzetta over at the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Now she leads talent development, workforce attraction, and she also helps coordinate our guests for Talent Thursday. So Denise, I'm curious, what are you hoping that our viewers take away from David's story, and why were you excited to help feature him today?
Well, so many of you are getting to know Jody and I a little bit better. One of the things that I've always been so amazed by is our wonderful construction industry and all the jobs that support our construction industry. I think about all the buildings just here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that are going up. We're having hospital centers and all types of care facilities. We have also a lot of commercial building going. And so it's not going to be a surprise to me on the phone that my father actually ran a construction company. So I've been a little bit invested for many, many years. With connecting with David, there's a couple things that I really like about ISG. Number one, they're very progressive in terms of using technology. And that is so key in today's environment. The other thing is David actually is one of few people that can say that he's been on, the front end of our last depression, where he was coming out of college and going through those internships and entering the job market and really hasn't missed a beat. I mean, we think about there was close to 1 million people that left the construction industry between 2008 and 2010. And fortunately for us, David was not one of them. So I think it's just a great story to share with our colleges and universities and all the talent out there that are currently studying in, engineering fields of civil and mechanical and industrial engineering. So
perfectly transitioning here into my next question, which is, David, take me back to college. I don't know when you graduated, but maybe specifically to engineering, because sometimes we talk about engineering and frankly, the field is really broad. Generally, when I talk to civil engineers, they say they didn't necessarily see themselves going into that particular field of engineering, but once they learned more about it, they really were drawn to it. So what's your particular connection and what did that journey look like for you, looking back and coming out of college and maybe facing a bit of an uncertain job market as some of our students are today?
Yeah, absolutely. It was an interesting selection. I really the pick of engineering, for me at least, was the connection to land. So growing up on a farm, my dad kind of always preached the fact that they're not making more of it, and I totally got that connection into the civil engineering industry. That, man, there's just this connection that you're building inside the land. And that's really what attracted me specifically to civil, and the engineering in general was frankly my interest in math, and had a really good, our superintendent actually in my small community was also the pre-calculus teacher, and he was the one that said, "You're really good at engineering." And probably one of my worst grades, frankly. He was a tough pre-calc teacher, but was really good and really pushed me towards the math side. And I was one of the few that started in civil on day one and stuck it out for the 4 years. So there was plenty of mechanical that I transferred over to civil, or aeronautical that transferred over to civil, and at Iowa State, but I was one of them that started. And coming out was a little bit definitely interesting. I graduated May of 2010, so we were post recession, but there's still the underlying impact. And I will say, engineering, I think I graduated with about 44, and even the internships throughout. I'm not saying it's completely perfect, but there is such a need for engineers that I was graced with 5 offers when I graduated in 2010. And at the same time, I was nervous. I was nervous to the point that I actually had applied to Iowa State's structural master's program, and I was working concurrently my final semester. And then finally said, no, I need to at some point in time start making money. So
we've all said that, right?
Right. So instead of getting my master's, I went directly into the industry, and it was great. I will say that I think it's great for folks to get their master's, but I always say it to new grads, I promise that you're going to probably learn more in the first week or two than you did in your 4 years. So I think that's a good thing to learn. And the other thing to learn on engineering, if you get bored in the first couple of years, and there's plenty of folks that do, I had a professor, and it was actually somebody from the industry in my first engineering class that said he was working on nuclear power plants, so really sophisticated stuff. And he said, all of us young minds out there, he said, how often do you folks think I use calculus 1, 2, 3 in my daily job? And, we're all the time. I'm sure you have to use all that sophisticated stuff. He said, never. I have programs that can do that.
Do it.
That do it, yeah. But your ability here, you're showing industry that you have the ability to learn. And I think that resonated well with me when sometimes I'd be frustrated with, a class that in a sense was kind of boring, to be honest. But you really don't get to see some of that stuff until you're, a junior and a senior and get really into your area of focus. So, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like you and I had similar pre-calc experiences. The difference is I ran the other way, and you clearly stuck with it and found a lot of success. I remember back May of 2010, that was a really tough time in the job market here. We didn't feel the effects of the recession right away. It took until 2010, 2011. So you absolutely were entering a challenging job market. And yet, you know what, 5 offers is really impressive. So, and yes, I understand there's demand for engineers, but what did you do to prepare yourself, would you say? Because I feel like you stretched on your internships. I mean, you had some very impressive internships. So what did you do in college that maybe landed you those kind of opportunities where someone else with the same degree might not have had the same result?
Yeah, I think that is something that what I really embraced in school was the interviewing for internships with, I'm not saying just anybody, but I kind of used interviewing as practice on interviewing, for one thing. And I also used interviewing as a little bit of you tell me a little bit about your company, tell me the story of your company, and learn a little bit of a snapshot into what folks, really experience in their particular organization. So if you looked at my internships in California and in Chicago, they were really different than each other. And they ended up being very different from consulting. I was actually working more on the heavy construction side on management of some large construction as an intern in California, and kind of similarly, but in a very different industry. Wastewater was in California, and heavy building construction was in Chicago. And I think that's the thing for people to see is use your internship, very strategically to take a snapshot at a job. And we say that when we hire interns all the time. We say this is our long-term interview process. We want to know if we want that you're a good fit for us, and we want to know that you think we're a good fit for you. And I think those are such strategic things when you're going through school. I know it's kind of a pain because some people sit there and are like, well, I just studied that long. I don't really want to go have that type of job, for the summer. They're really important. And interview with folks. When there's companies coming onto campus, go out of your way to go to those career fairs, and just learn about companies. I think you don't know what's in your backyard. I have regularly done job shadowing for high school kids, middle school kids. I love it. I had a kindergarten teacher, and her daughter job shadowed me in Storm Lake, in our Storm Lake office. And I actually took her to a meeting with the DOT where we were negotiating with them a water main relocation. Doesn't really matter. But she said, what do I do? I mean, this is a negotiation. And I said, yeah, just act normal. Don't get nervous. And it was really comical. At one point in time, the DOT folks had turned to her and asked her a question, and I had her study the plans, and she said, turn to sheet C013, and there's the water main in that particular location. And she went into engineering. And I love that story because I am so happy to provide that opportunity for her to get a glimpse. And geez, I would say just ask. Industry is so accepting to have you come in, spend a little bit of time, see what we do. It's pretty different work and very diverse, since we are full service. So we have both vertical and horizontal. So we have architecture and engineering, and you get a really cool snapshot of a lot of different job opportunities. So.
Yeah, Denise, you talk to college students so often about the importance of interviewing, right? And here's a perfect example
Absolutely.
of that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and so part of this series, and we're doing a series of interesting people like David and these great careers that we have here in Sioux Falls as really leading up to our Talent Draft Day 2020. And that really is a great opportunity to get out, meet with all sorts of companies from Avera, Sanford, ISG, Midco, Muth Electric. I mean, there's so many wonderful companies that you will meet with over the course of a day. And again, people are really, what I have found here is, as opposed to living other places. I mean, I was raised in the Washington, D.C. area, which I love, by the way. But being here, people are really engaged and they will help you. So don't be afraid to reach out. So that's one of the things that we do with our Talent Draft Day is we want to make those connection points between people like David, that have these great experiences and want to give back to others, and the students out there that are looking for those interesting, environments and cultures to be part of. One of the things I really get a sense, and David, you and I have spent a little bit of time together, and Jody, this is one of the things I should have added earlier, so my apologies. But you guys have such an interesting view on how you develop your people. You don't necessarily follow this traditional path. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I love, when I said you were progressive earlier, I didn't define what progressive really meant in terms of that type of engagement and really sort of owning and honoring the individual and their interest. But
yeah, I guess and I think it's really the organization's a lot has instilled this in me, but I always tell, and it's especially when I'm if I'm recruiting an architect and I have to explain to the architect that we're not just a bunch of engineers, because there is definitely a rift between the two on occasion of just a different level of thought. But I always say that what I really truly want them to understand is that we don't think that everybody is built the same, and that the very engineering term, that your career path should just be this straight linear progression, right? And there's so many folks that really, especially in our very structured engineering minds and industry, we can get in this framework, and it's even set up kind of as that for licensure, is that you graduate, you put in 4 years of experience, you're able to sit for your PE, then you take the test, and then you're a licensed engineer, and then you work for another 4 years, and you become a project manager, and then you become a client manager, and then you start managing staff. And somewhere along the line, you have found that you move to a level that you don't even enjoy. And that's so, it happens so often, and you see people move jobs, and they will, in a sense, they think, take a demotion, and I moved from there because I was a client manager, and I actually just want to be a project manager, where we try to have an open dialogue and say, hey, if you take a step forward or a different step, a step in a different direction, and you find out you don't like it, don't worry, that's totally fine. And I think that having that dialogue with folks and just finding out what they like is such a difference. You work enough, you want to enjoy it. So I think that's something that is different. I guess I'm probably the definition of it. I jumped some steps and didn't do some of the steps that I was probably supposed to along the way. And I've managed 3 offices and opened an office. And I think when I opened the office, I was 31, and nobody would have said, well, is that appropriate? And you're like, who cares? I think that's the path should be more, what can I do with my strengths? What do I bring to the table? And then finding that where I fit. And I think that's definitely different. But we're also, our average age in our firm, we have 300 professionals, and the average age in our firm is 36. So I think we have to be a little bit different, just because we have to continuously provide all these great young folks opportunities to do something new regularly and advance. Because if we don't, our competition probably knows our average age is 36, and we're training our best competition by them going there. So we need to continue to create opportunity, and we need to really keep advancing folks and finding where they fit best in the organization for them. Yeah.
You guys, frankly, do some really interesting work too, David. Do you want to give us a sense of just the kinds of things that you personally have been able to work on and that your team maybe now is working on? This has been a busy construction season, I think, and next year might continue to be as well. So give us a sense of all those different opportunities.
Yep. So as I said, we're full service. So we have engineers, architects, and all of the engineering disciplines. A project that we just wrapped up in the area, a really cool one is Terex in Watertown. If you come in on the south side of Watertown, it's the massive white building that dwarfs the Redland Center now. Really cool project. If you kind of look up Terex, global company, produce these amazing boom lifts in that location that you will see all across the world. Really cool stuff. And that is a 430,000 square foot facility, which, that's 10 acres in a building. It's just daunting when you get in the thing. But that project is something where we just love, because that uses our landscape architects, our mechanical, electrical, structural, our environmental team, our civil, our survey. We get to use all of our toys, I guess is what I would say, on a project like that, which really gets us excited, really, really fun. But then like on a straight civil project, we've just wrapped up, and quite a few folks maybe have seen it, the Fleet Farm. That's been a good one that we did the civil on that. And then really getting into some cool water quality projects. So much across the board of really diverse types of projects. Doing a water quality project in Harrisburg, right along Willow Street. That there's actually a treatment component and a conveyance component on the storm sewer side. So just working on all kinds of projects and working with the Minnehaha County right now. Just had some meetings with them on the maintenance facility there. So yeah, there's so many different facets that we work on, and our 12 business units are so diverse, from both public to private, vertical to horizontal. We have our hands in a lot of interesting things, and really enjoy it. I love the diversity of what I get to do and what we get to chase. It's really, really cool stuff. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I've gotten to work with you guys a bit on the architecture side, and it's great to see the visioning that occurs within your firm. And you can see that culture of innovation at work, where you're looking at a property and you're really showing what it could become. It's been fun to see you bring that to the Sioux Falls market. What's the culture like? You touched on this a bit, but what's it like if I'm going to work for your company today? What can I expect as an employee experience?
Yeah. Well, I think what we are is we're really flexible. I think this, Denise and I were talking a little bit about a week ago, and we were talking about flexibility with staff, and I think that's just something that we have to be. We had invested heavily in virtual machines, so all of our computers technically sit in our Mankato office here, but it means that with a good Wi-Fi connection, I can open up my laptop and work from anywhere in the world. And that also gives us real flexibility with a young staff that we've all got young kids. I have 2 sets of twins that are under 5.
How you beat, Denise?
You beat me. I have just 1 set of twins at 12. So, wow.
Yep. I've been called an overachiever. It's definitely gives us that flexibility that, hey, we get there's got to be a work-life balance. Can we, pre-COVID, we were having people that were, hey, I want to be able to head out at 3, but then when my kids go to bed or I get a free couple hours there, I'm going to work from home to wrap some stuff up. And we always kind of had that flexibility. And if it's the right individual and the right person, what we say is we're 300 professionals. So the key word there is professionals. And with professionals, you should be able to rely that they're going to do the right thing without having somebody look over their shoulder. So give them that flexibility, give them that opportunity, and trust that they're going to do the right thing. And it shows through on performance. I think that probably relates back a lot to the fact that we are 100% ESOP. We made that transition. I was on the board when we made that transition, and that would have been January of 2017, and that has been awesome. I was one of our 19 shareholders, and we just identified that we didn't want people to think that there's this smoky back room, right? That all these folks were going
so
somewhere,
true,
right? And we wanted to completely, blow that up and say, no, the company is yours. The dollars are right there. We get to share everything with our individuals. We do a quarterly update that we share the same amount of information with our board that we do with all of our employee owners. So I think that's a difference. I think it comes with an additional level of accountability, and you got skin in the game. So the success of the company is your success. And I think that's a real motivator and just something really cool that is instilled in our employee owners. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, Denise, aren't there so many elements of that culture that just play right into what we know talent is looking for today? It's no surprise that they're attracting talent, is it?
No, and you can feel David's energy, right? So just think about what it's like to walk around the office. I mean, you're inspired, and that's what people want. They want to make a difference, and they want to have, some say, and they want transparency and a culture that, respects the division between your personal life and your professional life. Because you're working on incredible things. I think about all of the institutions. You just mentioned the latest one, Terex, but your company's done a lot of different types of projects. And so you bring those innovative ideas to those projects, but you want people to be fresh and you want them to feel really invested and motivated. And so that's where it's just, if you take care of your employees and you put them at the center of your universe, everything usually works out just fine. And I think that you guys are a great example of employer branding. So bravo.
Well, I appreciate that. That is greatly appreciated, and I think our employee owners would say the same, that they're really proud of our company and what we do. I think that's a good point too. You need to, I think, to be able to be fully engulfed in your work is to take pride in it. And we do some things that you can be, really proud of. But, you look at Terex, you go see the people that go to work there. That's the cool part. Those are the jobs. Those are the difference makers. And then you look at I always say we can even make, some really cool stuff out of, the drainage work that we do, and the water quality aspect to it, and the level of thought. We have this unbelievably great team that works on water resources in southern Minnesota, and their effect is there's some lakes that they're putting back into lakes that were drained out, but they're seeing that just putting a bigger pipe was not the thing to do because you're impacting the flood, and then you're showing the full effects all the way to the Gulf. And nope, we're gonna capture those nutrients. We're gonna and then we're also gonna get more productive land to farmers to make sure that those people can provide for their families. Seeing some of that stuff, that's the stuff that that's the stuff that gets us to come into work every day, right? So
Well, David, I'm going to run with your overachiever comment next here. I'm curious about, let's be real here. Your path into leadership has been a pretty robust one, and I'm curious for maybe other young people out there who aspire to something like that. What do you credit along the way for your career advancement? Did you set out to be in leadership? Is this something that kind of happened organically? Help me understand that element of your story.
I had zero desire to be in leadership, right? And I was so excited to be an engineer, and engineer projects. And frankly, the stuff that I talk passionately about of the design of those, water quality projects and things like that makes difference in small towns. I grew up in a town of 300. I knew who was the engineer for that community. We are the engineers for that community now, and that was the difference that I wanted to make for sure. And the path to leadership was interesting. I credit it so much to folks just believing in the fact that I really wanted to influence clients, and I really wanted to gravitate to work directly with the client. I get so much passion about working with we always say that we have our 12 business units, and that's what and we really work to provide services to those. Many organizations will look to a list of services that they provide, and we instead do kind of the opposite. We just look at those 12 business units, and what we say is anybody can come in through one of those business units, and all they have to do is bring us a problem, and we will bring the services to that problem to solve that problem. And that's a really, in my mind, a really cool approach, because then we don't mind if a client comes in and they think they need an architect, but they actually need a structural engineer. That's fine. And we can pair that with them. So I think the path for me at least was really getting into that client mode, maybe faster than most. But with that client mode comes two really positives. You get to win with the client, but you get conflict with the client as well. So, it's not all positives, but I really gravitated to that. That didn't make me uncomfortable. So I really kind of went in that fashion towards the client management fairly rapidly. And then in leading a group, there was definitely a stair step of leading a smaller team in public works in a location, and then leading an office. I don't think my desire was to do that by any means, but there was just a sense from our organization and the leaders of our organization that they thought I'd be, good at influencing others. We do StrengthsFinder, and with all of our employees, and it's really interesting to look at that. And influencer, there's 4 categories, and influencer are 2 of my top 2 strengths. And it probably makes sense. Some of those goofy little things actually kind of ring true when you really take them and look at them. So I think maybe that was just my desire, was maybe something that I wasn't aware of, because that was really what my desire was to do, but it's worked out for me. But I'm always learning too. I make mistakes constantly in leadership decisions, but learn from the mistake, move along, and have the leadership team around you and the team around you that'll let you make mistakes, and they'll let you pull yourself up and go, okay, I need to do this differently next time, and give you that critical input of, hey, you could do this better next time too. I think that's critical to a successful path.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we let you go, if people would like to learn more about your firm, what do you suggest?
Yeah, seriously, if you're in Sioux Falls, we are, I would say if there's anybody that's looking for a job shadow or just learning about us, I am seriously happy to meet. And if you're just looking about our company in general, we've got a pretty good website. We just won a couple of awards for it. It's www.isginc.com. And but seriously, if there's anybody that's looking for asking questions about any of our engineering or architects in our office, we're more than happy to meet and talk shop. We enjoy it, and we want to get more and more folks interested in our industry, because it's the only way we're going to continue to grow like we are. So.
Well, we're happy to have you in Sioux Falls, and absolutely look forward to following your growth and all the work I know is ahead for you. Denise, we said earlier, this is all building up to Talent Draft Day, September 25th. Trying to remember.
October 8th.
Oh, we moved. Did we move it?
We did. COVID has placed a little bit of a challenge with us, but so it's going to be October 8th at the Ramkota here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, for people that want to come here in person. We also are doing things virtually, so we will set up some time with David that you can ask questions directly by a virtual format. So, just know out there that, David is one of many examples of business leaders here that really engages talent, and that really is the key to our success. When we talk about the Sioux Falls advantage, it's really engagement. So please join us on October 8th, 2020.
Excellent. Okay, October 8th. If they want to sign up, Denise, can they do that yet, or is that starting pretty soon?
That is starting now. So we are sending, so if you're in the Handshake Network, look at your school's page. You will see an invitation there. We will also be turning on those links in the next week for people to start registering. So, and you can always reach out to me, Denise G at SiouxFalls.com, and I'll help you through it. So.
Excellent. Okay, David, again, thank you so much. Denise, thanks for coordinating. Thanks for chatting. We will be back next Thursday as the plan with another edition of Talent Thursday, another great member of the business community for you to get to know. So any questions, any comments, feel free to leave those below. We can get you anything you need here through Facebook or through the contact information that Denise just gave. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll be back with you next week.